beautiful souls, welcome to Divine Decode, where we make the mystical make sense. Today's episode is one of those that leaves you thinking, wow, there's so much to this life. We are joined by Seph, an angel communicator, hypnotherapist, and miracle mentor. But he's not just someone who talks about transformation, he actually channels it. After a soul shifting experience back in 2002, Seth's entire reality cracked wide open, and from that moment, he has been guided by angelic wisdom that's touched not just his journey, but thousands of others. In this conversation, we are diving into what it really means to co create miracles with the angelic realm, how to access quantum consciousness, and how to fully step into the power of your soul. Welcome, Seth.
Thank you so much. Very happy to be here.
Seth, okay, so let's start with that moment in 2002, the moment everything changed, what actually happened that opened your connection to the angelic realm.
Yes, well, at that moment in time, I lived what I could consider the high point of my life. I was thriving in a successful real estate career in Southern California, and I was really starting to make progress toward meaningful goals as we would normally define them. Was getting in shape with the trainer. I was overcoming a lot of obstacles there, and I was in a relationship that seemed like it was going all right, except there were some difficulties. And on one particular day, all of my business collapsed. In other words, I had four homes that were sold. We call those escrows, and they had all canceled for some weird reason. And when I went home to share with the person that I was with, there was a little bit of a one-sided relationship there that, they needed to kind of carry their own weight. We ended up in a breakup instead. So it would appear that I had lost everything that I had gained through a lot of hard work. And skipping right to the part where I was trying to go to sleep and I was having a bit of a nervous breakdown or, very, very heat up in anxiety. I actually started by saying to the creator or God, hey, you say that I can ask for anything and you'll give it to me. I want to go to sleep and not wake up because this life is difficult. And I think we can all relate to that moment, or many of us can, where it just seems too difficult to be worth it. Anyway, after I said that prayer as I was trying to go to sleep, I just wanted a good night's sleep. I knew right away that that was not going to be granted. So, like a good real estate agent, I gave the creator a counter offer. I said, that's fine. I know you're not going to do that. Well, how about my angels? I'd like a tangible relationship with my angels. You say we have angels. They say we have angels. And I can't see them. I can't hear from them. I can talk to them, but I can't hear their guidance. How on earth am I supposed to be guided by something I can't hear from? I want something tangible. I want to see them or hear them or whatever. And in that moment, exactly that moment, my body started to be filled with a sense of peace. Of course, I thought that was something I was imagining, but that sense of peace filled my body. And I can only explain this now that I understand that when the angels speak to us or the divine speaks to us, it has the ability to disrupt the mind and its worry and that fear track that it can be on. So that was viscerally disrupted, and I was brought into this sense of peace. And when that opening happened from that sense of peace, the sense of wonder overcame me, I heard something through telepathic communication, meaning that I knew it And that's the only way I can describe it. But it was a message that was spoken to me in second person. And it said, Seph, everything's not just going to be okay, it's going to be better than okay. And with that, I felt surrounded by a presence. I felt my body being touched, and I felt it warm up. And I felt as though something beyond me had taken me into an ecstatic or very deep heart centered space. And it was so peaceful. I sat in that presence and it felt real to me. My dog and cat even jumped up on the bed and looked around the room as if they could see or perceive something was around us as well. They were very activated by what they sensed as well. So that was very validating. And then I went to sleep. I woke up this morning. The next morning, I was getting dressed for work. And I had this sudden realization, whoa, what happened last night? Was that real or was that my imagination? And at that moment, I heard something sort of fly by my ear, and I heard that telepathic communication open up and say, hello. And I said, hello. And the feedback came back that said something like, you may think that we came to you in response to a difficult day yesterday, but know that the difficult day was slated for you so that you would call on us because it's time for us to work together. And then they said, your world is about to change dramatically, and you will be doing work that will affect people during this change that we're going to help you with. And that's where it started.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Saif. It was really, really beautiful. And I can only imagine what you have been through and how it might have felt. And I'm glad that, whatever happened, it just really happens for a reason. And it has been so beautiful in your journey. Thank you for sharing that with us. Also, I would
Yeah.
like to know how did that awakening it shift your whole understanding of reality and your own life's path? How did it change?
Wow, that's a good question. Yes. So right after that, I was enamored by the connection, and miraculous things started to happen. Things that I couldn't deny as a miracle, but I also couldn't tell anyone about because I knew at that time. And of course, in 2002, this wasn't as much of a widespread conversation that we can be open with while we can today. Much different situation back then. So I would be in my car, I would communicate with them and hear from them. I put Nag Champa incense in my car because things like that, like the sense of incense and certain sounds like music or whatever, bring you into a heightened state where you can hear from them. And I knew that. So I would speak to them while I was driving and I would hear from them and I would hear guidance. For example, they would tell me to go to a bookstore one day, and that's where I found a book about angel communication. And it was mentioning things like signs and synchronicities, like feathers and coins showing up on my path. And of course, they started doing that. And then they did other things too. Like one day they asked me to drive to Disneyland. So that was very close to my house, about 20 minutes away. So I thought, what the heck? I mean, I was hoping that I was on a mission for the angels, but if not, it was no big deal if I just drove there and came back. And when I got off the freeway, there was a woman and her two little boys stranded off to the side. I pulled over and I helped them. They were not able to use their phone and they were in a particular difficult spot where you couldn't walk out safely. And the car was not mobile. At any rate, I did have them get in the car. We called the tow truck, we called her husband. I drove them safely to the gas station when the tow truck showed up. And she took my business card for whatever reason out of the center console of my car. And the very next day, I got a message that said, "Thanks to you, I believe in angels again." And I don't know that I remembered that I was on a mission for the angels when I pulled over, but it was made profoundly clear to me that when I had got that message at my house to go drive there, that the angels knew that they would be stuck and that I was being sent to help. And that created the nature of the relationship I have with them, which is to be guided how to help others. So whether I do readings or healings, they train me in hypnosis or what I call hypnotic therapy, where we can take people into other worlds. They've helped to calibrate a field around me. So, and by the way, I just want to say that it doesn't make me special, but they've given me access to a frequency where by utilizing it, I'm able to hear what guidance they give me, and other lives are shifted because of them. So I'm like a sort of a medium point, is how I would describe it. But it started right away where other people didn't know that I was communicating with them. And sometimes I would even get the message from them to call a certain friend, whoever it might be. It happened frequently. Call this person or that person. And I'd call them and they'd say, "Oh my gosh, your timing is perfect. I'm going through something very challenging right now." And I would sit and listen, and they would tell me what they were experiencing. And I would hear something through telepathy or knowing, is the way you would describe it. And I would relay it. "What about this?" One time I remember out of the blue telling a friend if she had thought about putting her daughter in piano lessons. And she said, "Oh my gosh, I was just thinking of that. How did you know that?" I said, "Oh no, it's just an idea that flew in." And she said, "Oh, that would actually be really good for her and good for us and everything." Anyway, it did turn out to be helpful. That's one example. But as this happened, every time I'd end up on these phone calls with people, and then afterward, these miraculous things would happen that other people didn't know I was working with the angels to do it, but I did. And that was the beginning of what I would call doing readings or sessions, because it was just listening to what they had for the person and relaying it. And in these cases, it was without them knowing it, but watching these miracles or being a witness for these miraculous things was really quite wonderful. And that would accelerate that, and the knowledge. They guided me to meet new people that had little pieces of wisdom here and there, which all accumulate. And ultimately, they have led me on a journey ever since then, that each day is a piece of expansion, not only for myself, but in the way I'm able to serve others.
It's honestly really wild how one single experience it can realign our whole being with divine intelligence, right? Um,
Exactly.
okay. Yeah, thank you for sharing that again. Um, you often talk about miracle co-creation, which sounds both magical and practical at the same time. But what does that actually look like in everyday life? What would you like to say about it?
Yes. Well, it began with being able to, let's say, help the angels. And I did ask them at what point. I said, "I mean, I can talk to you, and not everybody can. How do you want me to help you with this?" At any rate, what began with these years of working with them, speaking to them, gaining wisdom from them, and all of that accumulating simultaneously is what leads us to the wisdom about the co-creation of miracles. And through this conversation and relationship I've had with them for over 2 decades on a daily basis. And when I say on a daily basis, it's not just something that I do once in a while. For this whole period of time, it has consumed my life, meaning it has taken center stage. And so there's been so much that's one piece added to another, added to another. And through that, what I've discovered from them and our conversations is that their role is to guide us to know who we really are. And that's not the reflection that we see in the mirror. It's the person that we know when we're closing our eyes. And the piece about miracle co-creation, the big difference, and the thing that makes the difference in actually seeing miracles daily, is that the ability to co-create miracles, meaning being in a relationship with the source, whether you like to call that source God or the universe, the Holy Spirit, Allah, or whatever you like to call the source. And we're in a relationship with it. And through that, we get to know our true identity as unity with it. And the creation or co-creation of miracles is an accelerated process of self-realization. So manifesting is actually a key to self-realization. And this is the big difference between where it works and where it doesn't. Because if I wanted to have a social media page that's full of me buying fancy new cars and stepping into my private helicopter or whatever, that is not manifesting. Manifesting is not making the creator an order taker. Manifesting is a way of understanding that we actually have a power within us, that when we're in relationship with source, because of how multidimensional and expansive we are, that miraculous things just happen. And very often the miraculous things don't happen because we've willed them. So in other words, it's not always that we close our eyes and say, I want this, and it appears. Most of what appears through true miracles are things that we didn't know that we needed. An example that comes to mind is that I was on a trip and I was at a certain stop before taking an international flight. And a week before, I get reminded to check for my passport, which I thought I already had. And it turned out I had left it at home, but they reminded me at just the right time to call my roommate and get the passport sent to me on time. Now, it's not just things where we're avoiding hardship, although there are lots of those. And I can say that honestly, since I've been working with them, I don't experience hardship. I do experience challenging situations, which then end up revealing gifts. That is true. But I don't just experience random hardship anymore. Never. Not with the angels, because they're always guiding us. And sometimes there are things where I'll see a feather just materialize out of thin air, which is a reminder of how powerful the co-creative hand is in our reality. And sometimes it'll just be things that will fall into place. I got guided to get a job one time, and I got the idea from them to apply for a certain job at a certain place. And then right after that, they guided me to call a friend of mine and just share the idea with her. Well, it turns out that she knew the person who hired for that company. And I didn't even have to go through the motion of doing resumes or anything like that. I got the idea for it. I called a friend and shared it with her, not knowing that she had the connection. And within a couple of weeks, I was enjoying my new job. So there's so many different ways and so many things, but they happen daily. And some of them are just quite interesting. Recently, I had some car issues, and I happened to encounter a mechanic for my brand in the garage of my building. I mean, the angels had sent me to Hawaii to do retreats, and they said, wait till you come back from Hawaii. And I got back from Hawaii, and I met the mechanic in my garage literally the day that I had returned, who turned out to be a helpful resource. I wasn't asking for that person, but it showed up. I didn't know that was the miracle. So there's so many different ways the miracle shows up. But the cool thing is, with this communicative relationship with the angels and ultimately the source of life, we end up constantly in the flow.
That was really, really fascinating. The instances that you told and the thoughts that you kept on the table, they were really, really fascinating. I would like to question you on like you work at the intersection of hypnotherapy, energy work, and angelic communication. So, how do these modalities together activate manifestation in the quantum field?
That's a great question. So, when we drive a car, the engine is called a combustion engine, which requires fire from the spark plug, the fuel of the gasoline or diesel, and then the air comes in, and that creates the combustion in the engine that helps us drive a car. And there are many different ways for many different people that this combustion combination occurs. The hypnosis is a wonderful extension of awareness. So the awareness that it takes, the heightened awareness, first of all, the brain is split in two, left and right hemispheres. It's the left hemisphere that is our critical thinker, and it is our right hemisphere that's connected to our multidimensional spiritual self. And when we really get to know which thoughts come from which hemisphere, then we start to live powerfully. And when we put the two hemispheres together, we're unstoppable. So hypnosis is not what most people think it is. In fact, I've been learning to use different words to refer to the therapies that we do, because a lot of people think of it as mind control, which it is not. It is just an avenue in which we enter into high, high states of awareness. And from that, I empower other people to realize whatever they need to realize for the healing or manifesting that they wish to experience. So awareness is the role in our life which creates miracles. It either does so by prompting us to be in the right place at the right time where the door is ready to be open, or it actually opens the door itself. And those are some of the other ways. But that part of us works through reality creation to do that. So the energy is a high frequency creative building block that comes from divine. So no matter what energy healing modality a person uses, the way that I always see it is that it's light or creative energy. And I have people visualize it as golden light that comes from the creator source. The creator source uses that golden light to create physical matter. And when it's sent to us or through us, we then have this building block within us so that we can create reality. That's how they all come together. Hypnosis or meditation, if you like that, is a wonderful way of entering the higher states of being. The angels are our guides in the higher state of being, and the energy is the building block of matter.
Hmm. Right, that was insightful. Um, and I would like to know, in all the work that you have done, have you noticed any patterns like how fear or resistance it tends to block that divine flow? Any, any pattern that you must have noticed or, worked upon?
Yes, the biggest one is trust, which then leads its way to surrender, because very often we need control of everything, and rightfully so. The part of us that takes control is designed to ensure our survival. It's designed to make the right decisions for our survival. And whether that is stepping out of the way of a moving vehicle or avoiding being the prey of a larger predator, that critical thinking mind of ours, that's the left brain, is absolutely designed to ensure our survival. And because of it, when it doesn't have all of the intel or information that is stored in our higher knowing, it is not going to surrender and release that easily. And that's why usually getting to a point where we can surrender and release and get out of the flow of life's creativity, it involves us having several experiences where we learn to trust that source.
Hmm. Right. Also about that resistance part, it is actually so real. We just want change, we pray for miracles, and then there is this fear that it just strikes, and yeah, it is such a block. Thank you for sharing it with us and letting our listeners also know that there are certain things that may just block their very path towards divinity. Um, you are now creating this platform and show which is focused on conscious content. What is the deeper vision behind that, and why do you feel this is the moment for it?
Well, good questions right there. Well, first of all, most people right now are really challenged because they're going through a metamorphosis. And this is where I would cue a visual image of the caterpillar becoming the butterfly. But what happens is that that is not what it seems like every day when there are challenges at a whole nother level happening for us, except to know that those challenges are happening for us to incite the transformation, the butterfly that we are becoming personally and collectively. And that answers to the timing. The timing couldn't be any more fertile. And the vision that I have as I expand as a conscious creator, imbued with this angelic power behind me and guiding me, is that this is an opportunity for all of us to rediscover the power that we have within. And that that we have within is discovered through unity with each other, deepening our access to our heart space, and really stepping into a non-linear version of our relationship with the divine. And that isn't to say that a religion is a bad thing, but it is a linear and limited way in which we have a relationship. And usually, in some cases, it has to be through an entity instead of direct communication. But it's time for us to be able to have a direct communication with that divine nature and to actually move it out of a linear and limiting box where we can let it expand like it wants to through that love. And so the vision is actually really just to broadcast that light love frequency. And in it, it has its own intelligence where it does the rest of the work. And love is the creator. And the creator has a way of actually creating and overcoming all obstacles. So by bringing in that presence through love, then we end up creating a field, an accessible field for all. And that's the vision that is behind that, is just opening up that portal. And once the portal is open, the intelligence within it does the rest of the work.
That's really great. Whatever you're doing, it honestly it feels like your work. It isn't just not timely. It's part of something way bigger than all of us, and um, really nice to know about the vision and the initiative. Kudos on that. Um, Okay, let's get really practical now. Because I know so many listening, they really want to connect with their angels, but they just feel unsure about it. So, where can they begin? And even if they are doubting or feeling disconnected, where should they begin with?
Perfect. It's so simple. You just ask your angels to become a part of your life, and they will find a way. Now, for some of you, that may happen subtly at first. You may see feathers or coins. And if you see signs, naturally the mind will want to question, was that a sign or was it a coincidence? This is the critical point where you let the angels in, because everything that will be sent to you will be a sign. And if we let the mind edit it down to making it just part of a weird coincidence, then we keep missing the subtlety that wants to advance and grow. Angelic communication starts subtly at first, and then it becomes bigger and bigger. It has to establish what I refer to as a channel. Think of it like tuning in a radio station. It has to establish a channel. And once you tune into the channel, then it gets clearer and clearer and more robust and more robust. A couple of years ago, I was guided just to jump on a one-way flight to Hawaii, where I discovered a network of healers, and now I do retreats with these healers. Now, the angels knew that all that was waiting for me, and this is a big leap from the subtlety of seeing a feather on the ground and knowing it comes from the angels instead of doubting it, and letting that level of communication get stronger and more specific to the point where they're able to put me on a flight out to the middle of the Pacific Ocean with no return ticket, knowing that I'm going to be guided while I'm there with them, and then creating something powerful from that piece of guidance. So it starts subtly, and what will happen is that your mind will absolutely want to negotiate it out of reality. Don't let that happen. And sometimes it'll be a song that you're listening to. Sometimes you could be watching something, a YouTube video, movie, or whatever, and all of a sudden, the words that are spoken just hit you hard. They're profound. And then you realize, wow, that's the way that the angels are getting this message. Sometimes, quite literally, it's a sign. And that one ends up being a really big deal. And there'll be license plates or different numbers and things like that. So there's a way that we can go where we can take the feedback of reality. Now, once you get to that point where it becomes your everyday, you realize that the reality that we live in is a bit more like a dream of the soul instead of as real and solid and separate as we believe it to be. And then when you get to that point, reality gets to do things that other people would just simply not believe. And that has to do with things just sort of materializing out of nowhere when they're needed. I have found money on the ground, and I have seen feathers materialize, for example. I've seen people show up from out of nowhere, and they don't always have to look like a special effect. There was a time that I felt the guidance to go to New Mexico. And within 2 days, on the same podcasting networking group where I met you, a woman came in from New Mexico who is now one of my greatest friends. And I said, oh, that's so funny. I just heard from the angels I'm supposed to go to New Mexico. And then she showed up, through a practical means, but she just literally just showed up within 2 days. When I need a mechanic, it shows up. Like everything does that. So it has a course where it begins subtly and ends up getting there. I do teach a class online to help boost that process, to help people tune in. And the course is an angel channeled course. So you're hearing from the angels through me how to do that. But that's also another way. But how I teach that is just tuning into the frequency of love and light and being in that higher frequency, and then speaking to them, inviting them in, and letting it take its course.
Hmm. That it really feels like such a soft but powerful invitation for people out there to just ask, stay open, and to listen beyond the noise that stays there. Uh, Seth, what is that one simple but powerful daily practice that you would suggest to begin building that connection? Really, like just a very simple practice that you would like to suggest.
Yes, this is one that I get a lot of power from. When I begin my day, before I do anything, I just sit in inner reflection. And if you like to call that a meditation, that's fine. But the key here is to tune into the most joyful version of yourself. And for those who haven't discovered this, let me enlighten you to know that the most joyful and ecstatic state that you've ever experienced is always brimming inside of you. It is just simply the mind and our worries that distance us from it or eclipse us from it. But that ecstatic and heightened state is always just a thought away. And this is where, if it's particularly difficult for you, or you're worried about something and that seems to want to consume you, remember a beautiful moment in your life that gives you that feeling where you deepen into that heart space. And as if you're enjoying the most delicious food that you've ever had or listening to the most amazing sound that you've ever heard, any of your senses, just allow yourself with this sense to really deepen your enjoyment in the moment of reuniting with that heightened state. Spend some time with it. Initially, it may only be a few minutes, that's fine. But in that inner reflection, let it reveal something, and you don't have to look for it. If it's there, it's there. If it's not, it's not. Eventually, it will always be there. It will seem like a thought or an idea and be guided by it. But it just takes a few minutes. And oddly, when you get good at it, the guidance that's available will save you so much time that it will pay back the investment of time that you make in it. For those of you who just said inside your head, I don't have time to do that in the morning. I heard you. Anyway, the investment of time you make in it just to reset and set into that place, it won't just open up guidance in that moment. So if it's not there, it's usually because we're trying too hard. But if it's not there, then go ahead throughout your day. Just by connecting to that expansive space, it will show up when you need it. And might be 2 hours later when you hear something come in. That is okay. But just start your day reconnecting with that joyful and heightened state inside and the intelligence that you're connected to, that is you and the divine creator, will unfold and make it self the biggest part of your day and the biggest co-creator.
That really is that one simple thing that one should start with, and I'm really really sure that it helps someone, and it really might be that powerful, and as you said, it is. Seth, thank you for showing up as a bridge between this world and the unseen one, for reminding us that we are always being guided and that miracles aren't just a fantasy, they are natural. To everyone listening right now, your angels are already around you. So ask, co create, trust the nudges. Let the extraordinary move through your ordinary, because this podcast, it's not just a show, it's a portal. And if you are here, you have already stepped in. Signing off as your host, Pragya, sending you love, light, and a little angelic sparkle. Thank you.